Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 175, and today we're going to be doing battle with Udyr Braum Ornn. And so, surprisingly enough, this will be our first adventure into playing a deck with Ornn, and not the first playing it, the first time we made a video, but these Freylord abilities that came out of the Darkened Saga, mainly coming from Forge, just didn't really pan out in this set. As the cards were first released, I was definitely afraid of cards like Favored Artisan, because it's just such a good early game blocker. It generates some value, and then that value can be reused again even later if you play the Forge onto an equipment. And that just strikes me as something that should be quite powerful against the decks I like to play, which are much more in the aggressive end of the spectrum. But as the format kind of played out, the aggressive decks were a little bit too aggressive. These cards like Favored Artisan weren't enough to slow down the reign of Pirates. The kind of mid-rangey decks looking to take advantage of things like Combat Cook were all playing concurrent timelines, and then brothers like Ornn were really suffering in the late game space, since if you're trying to build up to getting like a turn 8 or a turn 9 win, you ran into a lot of problems with the control decks of the format, like Ezreal Kennons and Karmas. And so this style of deck, it didn't really find a home in this patch, but as we're about to embark on a new patch, the concurrent timelines is getting nerfed, Decimate's getting nerfed, a lot of the kind of control aspects of the current format, like as Kennan is also supposed to get nerfed, and so we might see the kind of space to where a deck like this can rise. And so while I do concede that it's not going to be super strong right now, here in a week or so, I do want to have kind of bubbling up in the back of my brain piece that some of these ideas can be potentially strong. And so there's basically two kinds of concepts that we're looking to build up with this, and they mainly revolve around both at the strong point, Petricite Broadwing, and then at the slightly weaker point, Braum. And these big challengers both play fantastically with the likes of Forge, so we can make them bigger with the Demacian Steel, or we can just forge them directly. And then they also play nicely with Udyr's the stances, mainly the 0-2 health plus regenerate on the bird, or something just granting bonus attack to Braum, whether or not that's +2/+2 or +2 attack overwhelm, doesn't really matter. But there's a lot of really strong board control synergies coming out of these challengers, and then they also play fantastically with these Forge mechanics. And so a card like Demacian Steel is something that I initially thought that was going to be pure garbage. Just reading reading the set reviews, I thought it was going to be bad. And then once we had a chance to kind of evaluate the equipment, they really shot up in power level. And now I'm kind of back in that space as to where, like, I'm curious why Demacian Steel doesn't really see any play, because it strikes me as something that should be quite good as a cheap, reusable source of stats. And so we're going to be bringing the Demacian Steel here in this deck, using it along with our challengers, using it, with our forges, and using that to build up these big boards. And so I would mainly call this to be a deck based on Udyr, a strikes deck, but we do have a lot of synergies with the stances, and we have a lot of synergies with the forges. And so this is what we'll be doing battle with today. I'm ready for it. I hope you're ready too. Before we jump in, though, we do have to go and pay that pay-to-win price. And I'm pretty excited for this Favored Artisan, you know. She's common, premium now, generates a card. That card's going to be premium as well. It's loads and loads of value, all coming out of one play. And so let's jump on in. Yeah, it took me a while to realize we hadn't actually played Ornn. He's in a tough spot, right? He's a very expensive champion that doesn't immediately impact the board. But as we are playing around in the Path of Champions, and I realized I didn't quite understand what all of these cards and synergies did. It took me a bit of time to piece together that we just hadn't been playing any Ornn whatsoever. But it's tough. I mean, he's a 7-cost unit. He comes down, doesn't really do anything, and then, of course, probably wins as soon as he gets to attack. But if you're spending 7 mana on something, it's got to have some payoff immediately, and he just doesn't have that aspect to him. All right, so on this board, I don't feel like we really need to shoot for value here. I'm just going to go ahead and offer up the trade with the Bakai. We're never going to get our Fleet Feather Tracker in a spot to where it wins a combat here. It's going to take much later into the game for that to pop off. And then we do still have the better unit on backup in the Petricite Broadwing. as a way to potentially take down this action that we were immediately expecting. Alright, so not a bad day for the Adept Weaponsmith. Getting 8 stats for 3 mana is a pretty decent deal. We have the Broadwing now big enough to take down action, even through some combat tricks. I'm ready for battle. Let's get these bros in here. Bonus health, that's fine. We don't lose our Broadwing in the process, so we can still come after action on a future turn. Yet more Broadwings and some tokens and stuff ready to boost our dudes. I think it's all good. He attacks with action, I'm going to block with our 3/3. So I think we can still go ahead and drop in a Broadwing. And then we're going to be looking to get all of these Artisans down. Maybe we should have played an Artisan first. That's a much better block into action. But the idea is we're going to have these Artisans on board, all the Broadwings, and get some big challenges in. It's going to feel good, bro. So here's a bird. Here's an Artisan. We can get our Broadwing in a space to where it can get a challenge in and survive. I don't think I'm quite ready for it to die, and so let's drop a time and dedication on it. And then I think, are we ready to just attack into this Sandstone Charger? We'd be getting 2 damage in with the Artisans, but losing the Weaponsmith. That doesn't sound as appealing. So I'm going to just go ahead and boost up our bigger bird. I would like to be able to take down action here if we can. And then come after the others. I mean, I guess if we wanted to, what do we think about this? Just trade away the bird? Now that looks much better. If he wants to hang on to the Treasure Seeker, it's like a little concerning because he is about to pop this Buried Armory. And we would like him to have to spend a bunch of mana if he wants to get this landmark onto the board. But I think that that's a willing and able risk here. It's like he's going to bounce a Treasure Seeker to send our Broadwing back to hand. Okay. Works for me. Still have pretty good board, and then with the High Aura Allseer coming down next turn, we can clear out these 1 health units with the stance swap. Would be surprised if he didn't try to just go for an action play here. He puts the Buried Armory onto action. That just spends a ton of mana. We could have to worry about something like a Grappling Hook, but that's pretty expensive as well. He needs like a 1 mana combat trick to spend on action to shoot off the Allseer. Should be tough to do. There it is. Ask me if was I surprised? No. was not. Alright, so we're unfortunately a little short of lethal on this board. We have the Broadwing or the Concerted Strike to potentially interact a bit here, but not amped about it. I think I'm leaning towards just dropping this Broadwing. We'll see how much mana they spend, but we should be in about the same spot, and then if he taps down really low, we'll be able to Concerted Strike out the action, or maybe the other unit, potentially get some lethal damages in. Didn't play out how I wanted. Okay, looks like we might get a kill on action. If he's lining this up to not get into combat with the Allseer, looks like this will probably be another combat trick kind of thing. Let's do it like this. We'll strike with the Weaponsmith into the Allseer. I don't want to get like too involved with our Broadwing out here to the right, because that gives him a pretty heavy incentive to interact with it, and then we're not going to get a kill either way, right? If he has a way to protect that action. And so I think this is fine. So he needs to do something a little bit more than Karma. Let's see if he spends some mana first. How do we feel about adding other dudes now? It's like, I don't want to override a unit and then not have a follow-up play. Let's just spread out the damage for the moment. There's a pretty real chance that he doesn't attack here. I'm going to say, like, I don't think here in the normals it would be a guarantee. This is one of these spots where it feels like he probably has to attack or he can't win the game. But, see. You never know with these Karma decks if they're going to be dropping Concussive Palms or Health Potions or Will of Ionias into stuff. There's a very real chance we don't win the game this turn. But we'll just have to wait and see. Shuriman Tellstones. Is that for a Spirit Fire? Coming in for Exacties still. Needs a little bit more. There's a Health Potion.
The body must thrive for the mind to be free.
So how much of this do we even care about? He is going to get Karma going next turn. We're not going to be able to take her down right now. I guess the big concern here is what combo they're using with Karma to get the kill with. We're probably dead if we don't win the game right now, but I don't feel like we could risk not coming into combat. Like, I don't want to super advertise the All-Seer. It is some like potential surprise damage with these stance swaps. Alright, let's see how bad it is. See what dumb card we lose to because because they got to turn 10. But that's essentially what these decks amount to, right? I guess if you get to turn 10 with your Karma deck, then you deserve to just win the game. Just a matter of seeing what the combo is. Oh, I'm not going to deal with this. Okay. Let's give him a chance to play a card, I guess. All right. I don't know. Like, I don't understand why people get joy in these. Like, you. Here's the situation when you play the Karma deck, right? You get to turn 10. It doesn't matter what your combo is. You just never get to play it. Your opponent just concedes immediately. Like, do you like? I imagine that you're sitting at home and you're like theory crafting about this like super awesome combo that you're going to put together with Karma. You're going to get Karma on the board. She's going to double up. You're going to play like 3 or 4 really powerful, big and expensive spells. And it's going to be this like super overwhelming, awesome thing, right? You're really planning on how great it's going to be. You play like 8 games before you're able to pull it off. And then it's like you put the first spell on the stack and your opponent just immediately concedes. Like... What in what world is that supposed to be fun? I don't know. Like, I hope that the payoff is in like pulling off a piece of the combo, because you're just absolutely never doing the whole thing. All right, so let's hang on to our Vulpine Wanderer. Look for something a little bit more in the early game. Up against Udyr Renekton. I would assume that this is probably some kind of Sundisk deck, but you never know. You never know in the normals. There it is. It's just the exercise I do is like when you're coming up a deck like this where you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You look at this and say like, Udyr is either playing to tokens or he's playing to Sundisk, and then you see a card like Renekton, and you say Renekton is either building to some kind of big vulnerable OTK or he's playing the Sundisk, and so at that point it gets us to, well, I bet he's playing the Sundisk. That's the only piece of that equation that lined up.
Our eyes lead to hidden paths.
But here, I want to get the damage on board. I don't feel like an open attack really grants us too much. It's tough for them to play units that are winning combats against what we have. This is the first time I've seen a Esteemed Hierophant in ever since we played Expedition, and so I'm not really surprised to see a card like it come down. And then I would typically expect things like Ruin Runners as their play. Okay, Exhaust comes in. I didn't want to play the Concerted Strike there in the event that we get hit with a Quicksand, and so this is fine. If we get our Concerted Strike Quicksanded, we're just going to be in a super bad space. So let's go ahead and boost the Wanderer. We'll get to add Udyr next turn, play another stance for free, and see where that gets us. We may not be attacking just yet. We may just be building up to this big Udyr, but we'll see. One thing at a time.
Bask in the sunlight.
All right, I'm going to go with the Boar stance here. Again, the card that worries me on this board is Quicksand, and so I want to just ensure that Udyr has 6 health so that he can maybe win one of these combats. If he has something like a Ruthless Predator, it will let him take down the Udyr but not win, right? Our big concern on this board is our opponent just outright winning. Cool, that's pretty good. So we know from that Golden Ambassador he either has a big Azir or he has a Ruthless Predator in his hand, right? Because he already has the Renekton on the board. This is a physical Ruthless Predator. It wasn't Renekton's. See if we can't get that takedown. Boom. All right, here comes the big boys.
All of this is ours.
We're gonna play Ornn just for the funsies. we can get the Ornn flip if we give Udyr another point of attack. We don't have any stances in our hand, though. I guess we can lead out with the Shaman's Call. Let's go for it. Or we could use the Favorite Artisan, just to give Udyr a +1/+1. I think here, I don't want to get, like, overly invested. Like we do, I either want to be keeping single combat or Concerted Strike up. Let's go with the Allseer. We can still single combat out of this if we need to.
Mountain, I am here.
Bask in the sunlight.
Another big champion, you got it. So he shouldn't be able to really hurt our Udyr. I'm just going to go with the Overwhelm stance now. We could put the stance on something else and then still get Udyr up to 10 attack. Since he's flipped, and then we can use that 10 attack for the next Ornn, but I feel like he's really going to struggle with handling this Udyr, especially if we get to come in and make a big attack. He puts big stats in front of Udyr, and then we get a single combat in front of the blocker. You got some potential to just outright win the game. He's probably going to be blocking everything here, but he's got a shot.
We've got things to do.
All right, so do we go for it? We gotta get the animation. We gotta see the Ornn flip. You can do it, dude. We have to play it immediately so that he doesn't get the chance to concede before the Ornn flip comes down. All right, we can load up some of these stances onto Ornn, make sure that he has enough to come out here and party. I got your back, bro. So many combos coming at you. The stances giving Ornn the flips, making the ox as big as possible. Feels good, man. Yeah, we're gonna kill Renekton here. Just a FYI, a little bit of advanced knowledge. This Renekton's going down. Is that too dangerous though? Man, maybe we can't block. He would have to have a shaped stone. All right, let's go for the greed. This will give us a free stance swap in our hand. One from the strike off single combat, one for the strike into the Sand Soldier. He's only got 1 mana, so not a lot to worry about. Look at this big old board. That's pretty spicy, isn't it? There we go. We got the cards on board before the concession. GG.
The gods have spoken.
See if we can make it. This is we're pushing in around 11 a.m. on my time on game day. You got to go and check your fantasy football rosters. 11 a.m. is when it's when they start to post the injury reports, and so all of your questionable dudes, all your potentially injured, your healthy scratches, all turning up at 11 a.m. And so you got to go and check it out. Make sure your fantasy squad is in good order. Mine, not so much this season. We got off to a bad start. Little bit of a rocky start for for my fantasy squads, but we're hoping to start making some comebacks. It's early in the season, right? We're playing a best of 3. We're down a game, but the match is not over. And here, this is fine. I'm not like super interested in losing our Broadwing. We have a lot of big plays that we're about to make on it between the Wanderer and the favorite Artisan, but I feel like opponents probably not going to come in and just trade away their jacks. So I felt like we should have been fairly safe. Now, we can make a play onto jacks, and I think this is where we want to go with him. Being in Freylord, he shouldn't have access to a bunch of combat tricks. And so I want to go ahead and just take down jacks before he's able to come in and drop the time and dedication. So this will let our Broadwing live, and then we can try to build up to putting the stance swap onto the Broadwing. And so say like next turn we can play Wanderer Artisan. Damn, was not expecting a trick. And then on the follow-up turn we would have been able to play Udyr with the free stance in hand. So didn't quite come together, but I am glad that we went ahead and prevented the jacks from doing work, and then we were able to eat up that time and dedication.
Better get the forge going.
I will tell you of Ornn.
Here, let me see that.
Okay, another good spot here. Get to try and take down the equipment before you can put the time and dedication on it. Beautiful. So we're in a similar spot now, right? We're a little bit further behind. We were expecting to have a Voltine Wanderer on the board, but I'm happy with how these turns have played out. Opponent hasn't really got to build up anything. We've canceled 2 of their time and dedications. We're getting back to dropping this Udyr into the strong Broadwing. Looks good. It's the third one that's missed. The third wasted forge. Uh-oh. Opponent's saying good game already. Did we lose? Is it over? I hope we're okay, man. Who's ready for another Udyr flip? Are you all ready? Here's number one. We're probably going to have to put the second stance onto the Broadwing, because I do want to attack this Weaponsmith and be able to get a takedown, but we'll see how these rounds go. Takes him up to 7. It's a pretty big boy. How scared of that thing are we? Would we... Like, opponent has 2 mana. If we get Troll Chanted out on this board, it's going to be a disaster, right? And so I'm looking to actually just hook in his 5/5 with our Broadwing. If he wants to get into combat with Udyr with the Weaponsmith, we should be able to survive it. And say here, we can pretty safely just throw this unit away. So he either has to decide, do I want to lose my Weaponsmith to Udyr, get blasted for big, or stop this this little attack. We do lose out potentially on a blocker this next turn for the Weaponsmith, but I don't think we're really scared of him anymore. He has to open attack to make him relevant. And against this Freylord deck, I mean, we could realistically just take the damage and not worry about it. Ornn's gonna flip here, isn't he? So let's get bigger than Ornn. The battle of the big boys. Udyr, a little bigger at the moment, but you're welcome to come and battle if you'd like. You do not like? All right, all right. Feels good just blanking Ornn.
Better late than dead.
Get some more stats now. We got this Troll Chant for our protection. I like it. Gotta look to drop the Overwhelm onto Udyr now. He's definitely gonna be attacking here. Oh my god, so many big boys. All right, off to battle. We can actually take down this Ornn with a 10 toughness Petricite Broadwing. Looks like we have the lethal anyways, but laser beam it. GG. Good old Udyr bringing the heat.
Beyond your control.
Do you all know if they're gonna make a Darken equipment for every faction? Right? How in this recent one we have the Noxus one, we have the Shurima one, and we have the Shadow Isles one. I'm curious if there's gonna be one for every faction, or if those are just the mad factions, whatever you're gonna call those when they have the dark units, the angry units, the skeletons and shit. And so I'm not familiar with Kane's lore. He seems like a very Shadow Isles-y kind of guy, but I don't know if you're going to print Aatrox in the next set, if he's going to be a Shadow Isles-y kind of guy, or if the Darkens are just kind of done at this point. I would assume that since it's the Darken Saga, we're going to be seeing more of them, but I'm curious if, like, we have a deck like this, I would much rather play one of those high-powered one of those high-powered equipments as opposed to, say, a Bone Club, right? There's just so much value in The Dark and Bloodletters being very good early, but then also having the big Overwhelm unit late. There's also the Targon one, right? The support thing early or extremely powerful late. And so I guess with a Targon one, we'll see one for every faction, right? I think that would make sense. All right, well, let's get Braum going on this board. We still have the time and dedication if we want to try and take down a unit with Braum. Looks like we don't need it at the moment. So let's hold back on it. We still have the combat cook in hand, so we have a pretty good target for the forges. Opponent bamboozled by our ability to kill Nora. Teemo coming in, sure. He stops being the Nora deck, switches into being the Teemo deck. Got it. Wow, that was some big hits quick. All right, well, I hate to ruin this guy's fun party, but his party's about to get ruined. All right, there's a good board. So much for you having fun, bro. Get that idea and concept out of here. Holy shit, he just hit on 3 puff caps? We only had 8 in our deck. Alright, so we should be good here. We can Broadwing down whatever his best unit is. We can Forge Braum, have it come and take down this this Songstress. His other units are just garbage. And then the Braum, or the Udyr is going to flip. We're going to get another stance this turn. Everything looks pretty good to me. Uh-oh. We're going all in, aren't we? All in on these 11 puff caps. Puff cap pup's a pretty good hit for this deck if he's out here doing Nora things. All right, pretty decent attacks across the board. I don't want to just throw away the Artisan. We might need it to block one of these rando Nora units, but I think we're looking strong. See if he's got a puff cap shot to take down our Udyr. Sad day for you, my man. Does the stance deal the damage? Pick an ally, deal 1 damage. So you can't put the stance onto Braum and have it get a big kill or something. Oh, it's not him dealing damage. Okay. Anywho. Give Braum those stats he always wanted. I wonder if we should have held back on that stance. Like, how slow are we in terms of playing a stance if we need to? All right, 17 puff caps. I think we're okay. We're a little short on lethal again, but looks like he's not adding anything relevant to the board. This combat cook's ready to come out here and fuck stuff up. I do stuff with your scout. counting on you.
Oh, if mushrooms could talk. Full of pain.
Pot full of pain. Get him, dude. Mini morph. Fucking lame-o. At least he's still got the item on him, but we made a pretty big investment in that guy. Sad day to see him start to fall. Only coming in for 10. Sad day. Sad day. All right, we'll bank up that last bit of mana. Hopefully we don't get puffed capped down. Oof. Our Demacian Steel's ready. Here's our chance. Here's our chance to drop them all.
Don't those fools know I own this city?
That's probably fine. Oof. Oof. That was a little further away from probably than I had anticipated. Uh-oh, we're probably dead, aren't we? Probably dead. Just one? Okay. Man, we didn't even have that many puff caps left. Alright. I guess we should have squeezed him a little tighter. GG. Alright, let's get 2 more games in here. And then we'll call it a day with the Braum deck. Feels good. We usually do 8. I'm feeling pretty good about this though. We gotta get this video done before the football starts, and so you gotta have your priorities every once in a while. I have other stuff that I'm required to do today, so it's not just the football. All right, let's hang on to the Demacian Steel though. We have to get a realistic game to where we play Demacian Steel, and so I think this is it. We're gonna have the mana banked up. We can drop it on the Vulpine Wanderer, maybe trade him away early, and then swap it to Braum. Right, it's one of these things where it's not like the biggest highlight reel kind of play. I just envision that like after playing with like the Dark and Bloodletters, that you can get so much value out of just these small little cheapo equipments and swapping them around. That I'm pretty surprised that Demacian Steel hasn't found a home. It's about to find a home with this Forge, but we'll have to see what opponent does. The thing you always have to remember playing against these Shadow Isles Slayers based decks with the stance swaps is you can do that AoE stance. So if he builds up this big board of 1 health units, and then we drop a AoE stance, good chance that we can clear out 2 or 3 units. Or if it only kills like 2, taking away their ability to throw units away. It's kind of nice. But here, I'm going to try and build up to a Troll Champ play. I want to see him add stuff to the board. Well, with him adding Kindred, it gets a little awkward. Can't really, we just kind of like telegraph something is up if we attack with the Wanderer. So I think our big Wanderer attack is okay. I would say he probably ignores it and then looks to sacrifice off his Fading Icon, but we probably have a turn of time now, right? If he didn't block with the Fading Icon, then play a Glimpse from Beyond, we should probably be a little bit okay there. And Braum is never excited to see a Kindred turn up. Poor guy. Poor guy hanging out with a 0 health. The opponent going to play Quietus on Braum? I did a fairly extensive discussion in our previous video about how I don't think Quietus is a card that's going to be a big problem, but it does have a lot of limiting factors in terms of like the quality of card you could print, right? If you want to print a zero attack 6 cost champion and Quietus is running around, right? It's bad enough trading a 1-cost card for a 4-cost card. Trading a 1-cost card for a 6 is going to be huge. And so I'm actually surprised they let it hit champions. It seems like, I guess, that's the point to where if they need to adjust and make it a little bit weaker, they can just pull that lever and say, okay, it hits followers instead of hitting allies or enemies, whatever the text on it is. So, we'll see. Interesting. I was playing that slow. I was expecting a little bit more to come out, but it's like opponent just doesn't have anything here. All right. And with the combat cook, we're going to want the overwhelm. He hasn't really been able to produce wide boards here or anything, but that's what you would typically be doing with Kindred, is having a lot of small sacrificable units on the board. Seems like they just got an awkward draw or something. All right, though. Our final battle. Let's see what we can do. Not too much love for the Demacian Steel that game, but it was certainly important. And then being able to potentially move that +2/+2 is kind of nice and interesting. All right, I'm gonna look for some cheaper plays though. We really need to be getting aggressive against Lee Sin action. It's just one of these decks to where we can't really flourish against, since they have so much Concussive Palm and Homecoming style card, that we really have to be pushing in the aggro. If we're building up to say like an Udyr with 3 or 4 stances and then he just gets Homecoming, you're gonna be in for a bad time. Uh-oh, we're gonna get the big shutdowns though, aren't we? He didn't have action. He picked up an item that doesn't give health. Now we get to come in and slam. We get to drop the big Demacian Steel. Things are turning around. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited about this now. Here it comes.
I don't need rules to know good from bad.
All right, you're gonna bring that upcycled rake onto your action. So we don't have a great way to go about it. We can block him a couple of times and see how it goes. Let's just come in with this Adept Weaponsmith, and then see if we can't start to maybe get a shutdown with this Inner Beast. It's pretty easy for him to take the units down, but I think I'm okay with it. Like if he has to spend a bunch of mana here, because his board's gonna suffer if he has to. Like the good trick for him would be like a shaped stone, but like this is what I was hoping for, him having to play something like Sonic Wave. We're gonna lose out quite a bit on this turn, but he doesn't get to add anything more to the board. And we're gonna have to see how this next turn goes. It's a little scary in that if we're gonna try and make a play with Braum, and he gets hit with a Homecoming or a Concussive Palm, we're really going to struggle, but we got this sweet Demacian Steel. We got to use it. But this is exactly why the Braum decks are struggling. I'm not super worried about jumping into normals and playing against Nami Twisted Fate or playing against a Lee Sin deck, but just from like a pure strategic standpoint, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, I want to play Homecoming on this unit that he's invested 10 mana into. So it's ultimately why a deck like this has struggled here in the current meta. What you got? You got a better answer for what's on board? It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't have like too much more in the way of interactive cards. Like, if he had a Homecoming, he would have just snapped it off, right? Like, a Homecoming on Tail of the Dragon into Braum is going to be more than enough to end these games. But without him immediately doing it, it makes me feel a little bit better. But this is like part 2 of the problem with these decks, right? Is that how do we ever deal damage through this board before he gets to turn 10, right? Turn 10's not the big deal for Lee Sin like it is with the Karma deck, but we can have these giant units, and then he just says, okay, I'll block with a Dragonling, I'll block with Tail of the Dragon, I'll Concussive Palm one of them, and then we're just so super far behind at that point. Curious, though, to what degree we could start just dropping stances and maybe AoE out this board. I don't think it's going to come together like that. I think we have to just go ahead and go for the Overwhelm. We'll try and hook action with Braum. But even then, it's not like a slam dunk play. Concerted Strike helps, though.
My shield is my sword. Have you met my shield?
Do you all have a suspicion that something is about to happen to Udyr? Do you believe something is about to happen? Oh my gosh, he's going to have the deny too as well, isn't he? Uh-oh. He has the deny. This is just absolutely brutal. Well, he's thinking about it for an awfully long time. All right, not bad. Perhaps we got an advantage.
Don't want to die? Don't
Sure.
do terrible things.
Not so much worried about this action. The action on the board isn't really doing anything. It's just a matter of we have to be dealing damage here. And if he's getting these big tempo plays, then we're just going to be completely hosed.
The dragon himself.
So let's load up the Braum. We're going to look... Looks like he's going to try and make some kind of Lee Sin Dragon Kick play. We can answer the Lee Sin. It's not a big deal. We can entomb him right now. I think that stops the Dragon Kick, right? If you take the... I can't remember if the Flash Freeze will stop it. If he's dealing 0 damage, right? An ally kicks an enemy, but I don't think you get to do the kick if you only have 0 attack. But it's going to be safer with the entomb either way. Maybe not now. I really didn't expect him to tap down below deny mana. So
The dragon spirit awakens.
see what happens. I'm pretty sure we could flash freeze this. We're about to get your learning moment for the day. And so let's see. Well, if he doesn't immediately play the meditate, then we have to switch to entomb. Right? We can't look to make this play onto Lee Sin and then have him play a Twin Disciplines in the back. Right? So the Entomb definitely counters the... It's the same deal. I think if you flash freeze, the Dragon Kick doesn't work. All right, let's see what we can do. Still looks like we're pretty far away from a lethal. Even if all of our units had Overwhelm and we stopped to add this up, it would be like 5, 10, 18, 21. And then he can block with 6, 7, 8, 9. So we would only be getting in for like 12, but he has a couple points of lifesteal. So I'm pretty confident this game is done, but let's at least draw our card next turn and see if it's something spicy.
Or the warriors or portals. You are safe with Braum.
All right, get the first 2 damage onto Braum. Gets another dude on the board. You could technically call that net 1 damage since we picked up the Mighty Poro, but I don't think it's going to work out like that. 3 sisters. Okay.
Let's show our friends the door. Hearts of boiling. My shield is my sword. Let's show our friends the door. We should be friends.
See how it goes. We can pick up +3 damage with the 3 sisters.
See every move.
He's got 8 health on board, so if he has actual nothing, we could potentially win this game. But I assure you, this game was done 3 turns ago. I assure you. That's very expensive, but yeah, we can't get there with 3 sisters. Okay, GG. And so yeah, that was a good set of games. You got to see some of the spots where a deck like this can be good, and then some of the spots where it gets to be bad. And that Karma deck and the Lee Sin Action deck are definitely where a deck like this gets to be bad. And my ultimate concern with this is as we roll into the next patch, nothing happened to Nami Twisted Fate, nothing happened to Ionia, and we're having decks like Action Lee Sin really kind of push up to the forefront right now. And so if you want a kind of like roadmap of what has happened with the meta, Pirates was at the top. The answer to Pirates and the way that they figured out how to beat Pirates was with these Shadow Isles decks that can get a bunch of width and blockers and then have a little bit of heal. And so that's where you start to see the likes of the Evelyn Viegos and the Thresh Kindred decks kind of pop up. They're not like spectacular against Pirates, but they have a lot of that early game ability to interact. Like these decks were getting to be like 45% win rate against Pirates, and that was enough to push them up because they're still good against everything else. But with the advent of the Nora decks and Nora Heimerdinger really popping off, that was a deck that was able to actually crack the code and beat Pirates. And once it started to pop off, Pirates just kind of disappeared. Now, whether or not that is completely because Nora was able to beat Pirates, or if that was just because people are fucking tired of playing it for the past year and a half, that is for the psychologists to tell us. But with the kind of rise and advent of the Nora decks, the next piece of that is handling a Sundisk meta, as to where you have to either be able to elusive, overwhelm, or rally through your opponent's board, because you just assume that they have 6 Nora units on the board the whole time, and if you aren't dealing overwhelm damage, or if you aren't clearing the board and then rallying, you're never going to deal any damage. And so the answer to that has been even more Twisted Fate Nami, since they can elusive around it, and then the newer development in the past week or so was the rise of Lee Sin, and Lee Sin being able to Dragon Kick overwhelm through it while having deny protection against the vengeances. And so with that in mind, and what we're going to see in this upcoming patch, there's been the nerf to Pirates, nerf to concurrent timelines, but nothing happened to the Nora deck, and nothing happened to Ionia outside of Kennen catching a nerf. And so I really, really, really expect a lot of these homecoming / concussive palm based decks to be around. And just decks like this one here with Braum Udyr just getting completely obliterated, right? You can't come out and spend 10 and 12 and 14 mana on a unit, get this really big build up to clear out the board, and then your opponent just says, LOL, it's a homecoming, or LOL, it's a concussive palm. And so with that, you kind of cycle back to having to either be really aggressive. That's the kind of space to where Pirates is still just really good, or you have to be able to go over top of them. Like we've been going over top of them with Mount Targon Ramp here recently. And so it's just this like mid-rangey space that decks like Udyr fill do it poorly. And so I am still interested in like Demacian Steel and some of the Forge mechanic and being able to potentially push these things around. Or if the next sets come out and Freylord gets a cheap Darken equipment, or Demacia gets a cheap Darken equipment, and then they have a lot of real power tied into those as well. then we might start seeing something like this pop up. But this is one of those things as to where I like to think that the deck is good in the right meta. That meta just doesn't exist, and so I said this before. I don't know if that just means that the deck is bad or the deck is good but the meta is wrong, because it just sounds like we're just saying the deck is bad, right? If the meta isn't right for it and the deck isn't good, then the deck just isn't good. But if it needs a specific set of circumstances to be good, then it probably just isn't. And so maybe it has a spot in a different meta. Maybe it has a spot in best of 3. But as a ladder grinder, especially if you're up in Diamond or up in Masters, you're going to just run into serious issues against all of the Ionia decks and probably just suffer as a result. And so, nonetheless, I had fun with it. You know, we got to flip Ornn in our first our first adventure in playing Ornn. We got to flip him. We had some of the good stance aspects coming out of this. We got some of the good forge aspects. And so, while I don't think it's a good deck for right now, I've got these things kind of locked in my brain piece now, and I know that we can think of them in the future as additional cards are printed and as formats change. Maybe something will turn up to where this is more interesting. But nonetheless, that is going to do it for us today. I'm done with the video. I hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed it too. It's going to do it for us today. And so I hope your equipment has entered the forge. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.